When I think of WWE in 2011, two things come to mind: CM Punk's pipe bomb and the Ryder Revolution. It was so exciting seeing Zack Ryder's career grow during that period, and even after he lost his push, I always hoped that he'd make a comeback. Since we know that's not going to happen, at least in WWE, why don't we revisit the Broski's first and last matches? The Long Island IC grew up on the western side of LI, in Merrick, New York. Ryder became a wrestling fan at a young age and knew that he wanted to get in the ring someday. However, the future internet champion almost didn't have the chance to become a wrestler. While in high school, Zack Ryder would be diagnosed with cancer in his foot. The disease spread to his lungs and was so severe that it caused him to miss an entire year of school. But after undergoing surgeries and chemotherapy, Ryder won his battle with cancer and would begin chasing his dream. Under the instruction of ECW legend Mikey Whipwreck, Zack began his wrestling training at the age of 18. While attending wrestling school, Ryder met someone who'd become synonymous with his career, Curt Hawkins. At first, the two hated each other, but after opening up and seeing how passionate they both were about wrestling, the two became friends. This bond resulted in them starting a tag team together on the independent wrestling scene when they debuted in 2004. The two did well together, and by the age of 20, Zack Ryder and Hawkins would be signed by WWE. They were first sent to WWE's development system at the time, Deep South Wrestling, where they continued to tag together. After about a year of training, Zack Ryder, as well as Curt Hawkins, would be moved to the main roster, and on the May 1st, 2007 episode of ECW, the Long Island Loudmouth would make his debut. When Ryder had his first match as a WWE star, he went by the name of Brett Major, and he and Hawkins would be known collectively as the Major Brothers. While Zack and his teammate didn't get an entrance, their opponents, Matt Striker and Marcus Corvan, did. Curt Hawkins started things off against Striker, and after wrestling for a bit, Curt was in control. To keep the momentum on their side, Zack Ryder tagged in. Unfortunately, all it took was a few shots, and Matt Striker had taken over the match. Ryder tried to fight back, but Marcus Corvan and Striker were able to overpower the New York native. With the alpha male as the legal participant, Marcus Corvan began destroying Zack. Hawkins would jump in to prevent a pinfall, but Zack Ryder continued to be slammed and smacked around by the Beast. Using his remaining strength, Ryder dodged a shoulder dive from Corvan and used the opening to tag in Curt Hawkins. The Broski recovered just in time to pull the alpha male out of the ring, leaving Matt Striker alone with Hawkins. Now that it was a fair fight again, Curt Hawkins countered an Irish whip into a crossbody and rolled up Striker for the 3 count and the win. I wasn't watching wrestling when this match aired, but if I had, I think I would have really liked it. Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins were presented as enhancement talent that were going to lose, so their victory was a surprise. I love when stuff like that happens, but as for the match itself, it wasn't good or bad, just kind of average. Of course, it wasn't meant to be anything special, and it did its job of introducing Zack Ryder, as well as Curt Hawkins, to the WWE audience. A few weeks after his debut, Zack Ryder would have his first official singles match in WWE, where he was defeated by Matt Striker. In June, both he and Curt Hawkins would be drafted to SmackDown, where they continued to tag together. While he had some success, Ryder's career really didn't take off until December of 2007 at Armageddon. During the World Heavyweight Championship match, Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins dressed up like Edge. They would swap in and out of the match with the real Rated R superstar, allowing Edge to win the title. This began an alliance between Ryder, Hawkins, and the Ultimate Opportunist. Additionally, after joining Edge, Zack Ryder officially started being called Zack Ryder.
And I'm Zack Ryder. I like to hike with my family and cuddle with my girlfriend.
From there, Ryder would act as one of Edge's henchmen, interfering in his matches and helping the Rated R superstar win. This indirectly led to a push for Zack Ryder, and even got him involved in the main event of WrestleMania 24. The Z-Man's career continued to thrive when he and Curt Hawkins won the Tag Team Championship at the 2008 Great American Bash. Around that same time, Ryder and Hawkins would separate from Edge and resume their tag team career. Things sadly started to go downhill when in their first title defense, Zack and Curt would lose their championship to Carlito and Primo. Even though they didn't have any gold, Ryder continued to tag with Curt Hawkins until Zack was drafted back to ECW. This time, however, Hawkins didn't come with them, so for the first time in his WWE career, Zack Ryder would be a singles competitor. This would mark the beginning of Ryder's most iconic gimmick, the Long Island IC. and he also introduced his own catchphrase.
Woo woo woo, you know it.
While nothing major happened during his tenure on ECW, Zack Ryder did alright for himself. He even became the #1 contender for the ECW Championship. In 2010, ECW was shut down, so Ryder moved to Raw. While Ryder was now on WWE's flagship show, this change made him a small fish in a large pond. The man who liked to hike with his family and cuddle with his girlfriend was often used for comedic purposes and started appearing less and less. Eventually, Ryder decided to take matters into his own hands, and in February of 2011, Ryder started his own YouTube channel and began uploading videos. This allowed Zack to build a fan base organically, and eventually led to him being seen on WWE more and more often. What became known as the Ryder Revolution culminated at TLC 2011, where the Ultimate Broski defeated Dolph Ziggler to win his first singles championship, the United States title. Sadly, this is when Zack Ryder's push died. In about a month, Ryder would lose the championship to Jack Swagger, and be put in a storyline with Kane, John Cena, and Eve Torres. While that may sound like a big deal, it didn't do anything to help Ryder's career. From there, Zack Ryder more or less fell back into the position he was at before the Ryder Revolution. He would occasionally get championship matches, and was a part of some storylines, but they almost always saw the Broski as the loser. In fact, beginning in December of 2012, Zack Ryder would begin a losing streak on Raw, and wouldn't break it until July of 2014. After years of nothing, it seemed like there was hope when Zack Ryder was sent to NXT and began teaming with Mojo Rawley. They called themselves the Hype Bros, and while they never won any titles, the team did alright for themselves. Then, the unthinkable happened. After Neville suffered an injury and couldn't compete, Zack Ryder took his place at WrestleMania in a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. In a moment that shocked everyone, Zack Ryder won the match and became the IC champion. While it was an exciting moment, the Long Island IC would lose the title to The Miz only 24 hours after winning the belt. A few months later, Zack Ryder would be joined by Mojo Rawley on the main roster. Despite competing for the tag team titles, the two were never successful, and their run together wasn't anything to write home about. Eventually, after teaming for about 2.5 years, Mojo turned on Ryder and ended the team. They had a couple of matches against each other, but Zack lost every time. Like before, Zack Ryder once again found himself without much going on and was rarely seen on Raw or SmackDown. However, things would turn around in January 2019 thanks to an old friend. Curt Hawkins was a special guest referee for a tag team match involving the Revival. When Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder lost, they began attacking Hawkins. Zack Ryder then came to his former tag team partner's aid, and after almost 10 years, the two were officially back together. This built up to a match at WrestleMania 35, where Ryder and Hawkins faced the Revival for the Raw Tag Team Championship. After a hard-fought battle, Zack and Curt came out victorious and were once again tag team champions. And unlike the last time Ryder won a championship at WrestleMania, he and Hawkins successfully defended their titles the next night on Raw. Despite being a champion, Zack Ryder wouldn't be seen on TV a whole lot, and he and Hawkins ultimately lost the belts in their second title defense on the June 10th, 2019 edition of Raw. Even though they didn't have the gold anymore, Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins continue to be tag team partners. Sadly, the leader of the Ryder Revolution made fewer and fewer appearances and didn't win that often. When the new year started, Ryder wouldn't have a match on Raw until March 9th. While it was his first match on the flagship show of 2020, it turned out to be his final match in WWE. Like his first match 13 years earlier, Zack Ryder was accompanied by Curt Hawkins, although they weren't tagging this time. Zack's opponent was the almighty Bobby Lashley, who immediately took the Long Island IC down with a shoulder once the bell had run. Ryder was then stopped by Lashley in the corner and nearly broken in half. The fight moved to the opposite side of the ring, where Bobby continued to punish Zack. There was a bit of hope when Ryder's knees connected with Lashley's face, but it didn't last long. The Almighty knocked the wind out of Zack Ryder with a huge spinebuster, followed by the Dominator for the 3 count. This is a pretty sad, but not surprising way for Ryder to go out. Although, there are some interesting parallels to his first WWE match. For one, Bobby Lashley also appeared on the same episode of ECW where Zack Ryder made his in-ring debut. 2. Zack Ryder hit only one offensive move in both his first match and his last match. But what's really cool is that Curt Hawkins was by Zack Ryder's side both times. And considering these two started their wrestling careers together, that's a pretty cool way to leave WWE. Shortly after Zack Ryder's match with Bobby Lashley, COVID-19 began hitting hard, and ultimately led to the Long Island Loudmouth getting let go from WWE. Once his 90-day no-compete clause expired, Ryder joined All Elite Wrestling and competed under his real name, Matt Cardona. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in AEW because Zack Ryder is one of my favorite wrestlers. It was so exciting seeing him starting to be used more and more because of the Ryder Revolution, and I'll give WWE credit, they booked that really well. It was just after he won the US title that things fell apart. But still, that run he had in 2011 is probably my favorite memory from Zack Ryder's career. But what about you? Let me know your favorite Zack Ryder moment in the comments. Then check out this video on Neville's first and last matches in WWE. With that, I'm Zach from Tap Out Corner, and that was Bell to Bell.